and welcome to How to Succeed During a Pandemic. Hi, I'm Wendy Lally, your host, and I am very delighted that you are here today because we have a really interesting show. The purpose of this show is really to introduce you to people that are not only managing to survive during this pandemic, but actually thrive. Because I'm sure, as you realize, the last year has been a challenge to all of us in some way or other, and especially to businesses. So many of our shows have been focused on business. Some have been focused on the arts as well. This particular one is actually, we're going to meet some people who have a professional practice, because that's another area that has been severely challenged during this time. In fact, marketing for professional practices is always something of a challenge. And I ought to know because I'm a copywriter in my life. And this show is actually sort of part of what I do, helping my clients to market themselves and helping other people who aren't clients to market themselves as well. But I'm hoping that the insights that they tell us about on this show will help everyone who's listening. Today, we're going to meet Ryan Roessler and Prachi Apostolos. And they work for a company called, actually Ryan owns the company, called Chicago Mind Solutions. It's not really a company, it's a practice. And what they do there is neurofeedback, which is really a fascinating therapy that you're going to learn about today. Ryan has been on the show before and talked about neurofeedback. He knows I'm a huge fan, and I'm sure you will be too once you learn a little bit more about it. Prachi is the clinical manager of the office and the lead neurofeedback technician. Ryan, I know you particularly well, and I have to tell all of you, he is the most creative person I've ever met in my life. And I've met a lot of creative people. So please don't neglect to tell us about that part of your life too. Why don't we start off with you, Ryan?
Well, at this point in my life, this is my second or third career. I graduated art school with a BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I became a commercial photographer for 30 years. And from that point on, around 9/11, things started to slow down. The computer entered the digital camera entered the market, and the whole market for commercial photography changed. So at that point, I looked for other ways to expand my services. And one of them was something that came across my transom, a woman asking to have her photograph headshot done for a book on neurofeedback. And what happened was I photographed her, and then I asked if I could do some neurofeedback. And I did. I came in 3 times, and she said, "Ryan, you've got one of the most unusual brains I've ever seen." So, and it helped me incredibly. Now, I could creatively, I'm fine, but paperwork, just grade school was difficult for me. It's sequencing was difficult, details, I had ADHD, which is attention deficit disorder. And so this, literally, I would leave the sessions happy. I mean, just with a feeling of euphoria, because my brain was working better. And also, then I could do, not that I cared to, but then I could do paperwork that I couldn't do before. Before I could do a half-hour paperwork, I would have to get up, take a break for another half hour, and then come back and do the paperwork. Now I could do paperwork and detail-oriented work all day. So I realized this is something I wanted to bring to other people. And so I opened a clinic about, Prachi, you've been with 7 years?
I've been with you for 6, Dr. Trevor 7, and I think you've had this clinic open for about 10.
Yeah, so I've had this clinic open for about 10 years now. And but although I own the clinic and can own the clinic, I am not a psychologist, and I am not, and though I can be a technician, I no longer am the technician here. And so at this point, we have 2 staff psychologists.
Mhm.
We have Prachi, who's the director and a lead technician. And we have a staff of what, 7 now?
Yeah. With some interns on board, postdoctoral fellows, looking for some more experience.
That's really incredible. And Prachi, how about you? How did you get started doing this?
So my backgrounds are all primarily in science and the different types of sciences of like biology, chemistry, physics. I had the intent to attend medical school when I was a bit younger. And in my journey, I had received a bachelor's in biological science with a minor and focus in chemistry and psychology. And then I further pursued a second bachelor's for biomedical science. And a lot of my career involved lab research in between like serving shifts in different restaurants. And my lab research was more to essentially identify, behavioral responses from neurodegenerative diseases and their pharmaceutical interventions. So I primarily studied Parkinson's in lab settings. And when I was studying, I actually found neurofeedback in a much different path. And I think the way that we all become led to this field is very unique in nature because it's not so intensely discussed in, academic settings, and it's not discussed all the time in media, though a lot of individuals have utilized this type of treatment modalities just for, performance purposes or helping with mental health concerns. And so I actually, one of my coworkers when I was serving had Tourette's, and she was a single mother of 4. She had to quit her job because it just got so intensive. And eventually she came back to work 2 years later. And I asked her what pharmaceutical intervention she had used to help her with this, issue that she was experiencing. She told me she did neurofeedback. I had never heard of it. And I said, all my backgrounds are in science. Let me go investigate this field a little bit more clearly. I met her doctor because she took me with her to one of her appointments. And before I knew it, I was interning for her doctor just to learn more about the field. And it was just incredible. And then within 6 or 7 months of me interning, the ad for Chicago Mind Solutions came out that they needed a neurofeedback technician. And of course, I became part of this wonderful team. And Mr. Roessler here had hired me on to essentially tackle on different projects. During this time, I expanded a lot of my responsibilities, thankful to all promotions and opportunities to indulge in also the other aspects of patient care, such as, insurance, paperwork, running and managing businesses. And I loved the experience I gained and eventually used that time to pursue an MBA with the focus in healthcare administration primarily. So now I can essentially look at dual roles with, using my scientific background as a technician and with patients directly, but to also utilize like a lot of what I've learned in my MBA to expand and have, perspectives in business.
You guys are really an incredible team. I'm just so impressed. I mean, Prachi, your background is like, wow. And Ryan, as I say, you're when I think of the word creativity, I think of you. You're, to me, define it. What I want to talk about today, though, is using creativity for marketing professional practices, because I know you do a lot of that. And I want to share what you're doing because it's been so successful with the people that are watching this show and listening to this show. During COVID, a lot of, well, even before COVID, professional practices have a difficulty. Some of them have difficulty marketing themselves because it goes against the grain for many professionals to sort of advertise. And it also goes against the grain for their patients. Yet, how do you tell the world about yourself? And Chicago Mind Solutions has been incredibly successful in doing that. And Ryan, I want to ask you how you have been doing that, because this has been going on for really at least 2 years that you've been so successful in increasing the number of patients that you have. 30 patients in 30 days, that phrase is rattling around in my brain. And how did that happen? So could you talk to us a little bit about that?
Certainly. It's hard for us to remember at this point. The way professional practices would advertise before was in the yellow pages. So when I opened this clinic 10 years ago, I had salespeople from the phone books coming by trying to sell me ad space in the phone books. So the way to advertise now for any clinic is over the internet. I mean, there's just having a website is as important as having a business card. You can't open a business without a business card, without a brochure, and without a website. I mean, that's as basic as you can get. It's like leaving the house with one shoe, you can't. And I know a lot of practices, clinical practices, are reluctant and find it distasteful to advertise. But I think the way you have to look at it is that's just literally the cost of doing business. And you can help more people, the more people know about you. And there's basically in the internet, the three basic things is having a very good web person. Are they still called webmasters?
They should be, because they are masters at their trade for sure.
So you hire a very good webmaster, which we have. And then there's two different types of advertising over the internet. And one's called pay-per-click, PPC, and the other one is called search engine optimization. And Prachi, why don't you explain a little more about that? You might know a little bit more.
I think that there are a lot of strategies that go, and it goes like beyond even the pay-per-click and the SEO strategy, because there are marketing strategies that can actually support these and expand them. And if I was going to backtrack for just a minute and say that a lot of Mr. Roessler's success also comes in, just hiring the team that's going to best support the processes of the clinic. So, our webmaster or our doctors and our team, they each have such diverse backgrounds and roles, which support our expansions and our growth, and not only provide patients that comfort, but also allow us to all engage with each other in a really healthy and resourceful mindset. And when we come to like marketing strategies specifically for SEO and for even pay-per-click, if we're talking about AdWords, whatever we want to do, we are looking to, as a team, understand how we want to get there. What is our final goal? What is our result? And we create strategies. SEO can include figuring out key terms, understanding patient or potential clients' interactions with our website and our, brand recognition, essentially, to see what they're responsive to, how they perceive it, and what they need to see more of for them to want to engage more often. For the pay-per-click, there's naturally the like AdWords where you can, kind of help boost your business a little bit. But I know this can be a little difficult during, especially these trying times for most small clinics to do, because investments in terms of like monetary investment can be very difficult when business is minimizing due to restrictions or guidelines or, just fear of involvement. But if you do have the time to like invest in some type of strategies, such as like paying for ads or certain presence on different websites or platforms, you have the opportunity to expand your brand, make it well known.
You guys have just touched on so many things in marketing, just in that little sequence. One of them that I don't know whether you're aware of or not, but the culture, you have a culture within your clinic that is not only how you treat patients, but how you treat each other and how the patients are encouraged to interact with everyone, and how comfortable you make people feel there. So that sometimes people overlook that. That is part of marketing, that, how people feel about your business when they actually engage your business.
People do comment when they come in here, how nice the place looks. And I bet we're the only neurofeedback clinic in the country that after the session, the electrodes are placed on your scalp with some gel. Mm-hmm. So we give them a hot towel from a hot towel warmer that takes the gel off their hair. And so the whole experience is we make it as professional also, but as warm and kind as possible. Right. So they're sitting in a gray leather recliner. They're watching the information on a flat screen TV in front of them. And the staff is warm, approachable, and we make it as positive and professional experience as we can.
And basically what's happening during the session, folks, is that your brain is actually being retrained to function more effectively. And if this sounds crazy and new wave, whatever. Basketball players are doing it, football players are doing it, golfers, actors, writers. I'm sure there's a list of politicians you could probably come up with. Basically, it's helping the brain to the electrical impulses in the brain to behave more in an optimum way, and without drugs, without artificially changing anything. So
right.
it's really, and it's relatively new. Ryan, I think you told me it started in the 1970s.
Yes.
But it has
So it's been around. It's been around, 50 years.
right. And it was researched by NASA. The military uses it. So it's
And
really,
it's much more popular in Europe than it is here.
Yeah, in Australia, I would say. And I would say that I understand. So the treatment is between the 60s and 70s. And I have to say it's expanded and developed so much over time. It's been able to address several mental health struggles over the years that it's been in progression. And with the technology, there are no electrical impulses. We're not sending anything electrical. It's a lot of teaching of relaxation and focus within the session. You're learning new strategies every day with your clinical provider on how to be able to operate within settings that are beyond these electrodes and beyond this setting.
right.
It's just teaching that efficiency and that effectiveness for daily strategies.
And obviously, the Chicago Mind Solutions aren't the only people doing this. I mean, this is done, and that's actually the reason I wanted you to come on, so we can talk to other people who also are doing this and are practicing professionally, and struggling to figure out how are we going to tell people that we're really good. We want them to come in, and we want to increase our patient load.
You can't avoid the internet.
Yeah,
You can't
absolutely.
avoid Google. You can't avoid the internet.
Well, that's the other thing I wanted to get to too, with the whole thing about the internet, is people tend to think it's, okay, I'm going to put ads in the local paper, or I'm going to go on the radio. I'm going to have and I'm also going to have a website. Websites don't function like that. Websites, if you're going to compare them to anything, I think it's your brick and mortar store or office, because they can function like that today, and they do function like that today. And if you don't have it, then it's like someone else has an office that's available to patients, and and you're in your basement, or you're not available.
Right.
So that's why it's so important. The other thing is and I know that you were involved with this as well, Prachi, the social media, using social media. The reason for all of this is the way people perceive marketing today is much different than it used to be. It is not trusted by people who used to be highly influenced by it. So how do you reach those people with information about your business when running an ad is not only expensive to do, but even when people read it, they're not going to trust what it says? And the way you do that is social media, which is basically electronic word of mouth. It's reaching people who have used this service or used your service can reach out to other people and tell them about their experience. And that has more impact than anything else that can be said. So tell me, how do you guys use social media and that form of communication?
So what we want to do is we want to use these platforms to essentially expand our business model and extend what our services can offer, how supportive they are to people, to expand on our partnerships, promote them, and then also inform everyone of how we can educate them on these mental health services, because we understand that mental health services can come from various departments, and we want to let you know what we can offer. And that's going to be difficult to show you or communicate if you're not directly coming in to see us. So we use these platforms to reach just a wide scale of individuals during this time. And how we do that is we use the social media for focused content. So we have content writer that we discuss, materials that people may want to see. We study based off our website and other supporting sites or similar sites, behavioral patterns of these clicks. Where are they going on our website? Where do they stay the longest? Where do they leave? How do they perceive this is what we're essentially investigating. And we do this as a team. This isn't a single effort. And a lot of small businesses, they have to usually make the option of, can I invest financial value or timely value? And a lot of times it takes a little bit of both. But during this time where, fiscal standpoint has been risked because of the current times we're in, we invested so much of our time to learning these behaviors. And we're also fortunate that we have psychologists on staff that work with people so often that we can see what people are looking for. So we address keywords, we have directive articles, we have our team essentially investigate what our readers need to see.
And that varies month by month. I mean, we have to do research, and it varies month by month.
Mm-hmm. So our growth wasn't always from a monetary standpoint. Our growth came because we invested so much time. And I know that 10 years ago, you're still investing a lot of time going door to door, creating flyers, creating brochures, person-to-person meetings. We're just reallocating that time into a different setting.
Well, I think you have to, because people communicate totally differently now than they did 10 years ago. And their mindset, as I was trying to explain, is very different. And I think it's a generational, I know it's a generational difference. I mean, you cannot talk to a millennial the way you might talk to someone in their 50s. Just.
Well, what millennial has ever looked up anything in the phone book, Wendy?
There are organizations that connect you within the local community, like the chamber. Now, I'm assuming that you're a member of that and that you are active
Not
in
only
that.
are we a member, but this young lady here is an ambassador.
Ah, congratulations.
We didn't have her wear her sash today.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I don't need one.
But I think it is very important to belong to other organizations, to belong to organizations, networking groups within your community, because that is how people develop a sense of trust.
Yes.
With people in business.
And you have to, and you have to be in that, you have to be in the chamber for like 9 months or a year until people just trust you.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a matter of seeing the same people. Finally they'll talk to you. Finally, well, I've seen this person here for years. She must be a good person, and I'll approach her. And in our case, everybody knows somebody who needs neurofeedback.
Especially for professionals. Would you tell us a little bit about your work with the chamber?
Yes, of course. I think that in the current day and age, there is a mixture of what you need to invest your resources in. Some of them, and a good chunk of them, actually need to be, invested in online content, digital marketing. But there's also that point where we as people still long for that person-to-person contact, no matter where we're at or what we're doing. So it's just imperative that we get involved in our community. Especially being a mental health clinic, we want to make sure that we're here to support our community members however best fits them. So that included being part of the local chamber, which has been a wonderful experience. When you immerse yourself in such a culture that looks to expand business and grow together as teams, you find that you can connect with so many individuals who can advise you during times where you need it, just as friends, or that you can service and help in ways that, if you guys never met, you wouldn't have ever been able to offer. And you learn more about yourself and other businesses around. And I think one of the most important things I learned from the chamber is it's not all about business. A lot of it's about our community and making sure it's healthy and that we continue to contribute to its own, growth and development. So within the chamber, outside of being an ambassador and outside of actually attending meetings, we have to make sure that we're devoting our time to community projects. But something I really like to tell a lot of our clients is, if we remember, because the treatment has been around since the 60s and has been utilized in different types of arenas to improve mental health, it's been around longer than a lot of medications that are currently on our market. So these pharmaceutical interventions have greater side effects, shorter term results, and need continuous investment. Whereas it's easier for me to let a person know that we do have a lot of data and we are able to offer a much longer term studied approach to their mental health. it goes a long way with them. So to discuss side effects and discuss the actual end result, it bodes very well for the neurofeedback industry.
Those are excellent points, Prachi, really. And people can find that information on the site, and is that right?
Right.
I mean, I also wanted to ask you about the depression that many people are suffering, especially going through the last year. I mean, I can't tell you, in my own family, we've had a difficulty with a family member going through this. And he was actually, the doctor who was treating him actually lost 5 patients over the summer to suicide.
Oh my goodness.
And it was all COVID-19 related. Kids just couldn't cope. And, the isolation, the fear of death, the fear that you're seeing your older relatives die, all of that was just so beyond what they could handle. And I wonder, have you seen an influx of people coming in for neurofeedback to kind of deal with this?
Yeah, definitely. We've definitely seen that influx of difficulty with isolation. And again, if you refer to our site, we have specific content that is approaching this idea of how COVID-19 affected mental health. And even more recently, we've been assisting patients with the actual physical repercussions of COVID a little bit more. They are having difficulty with cognitive functioning. They're experiencing deficits in their actual abilities all of a sudden. And so we have doctors from various fields referring over to the office to attempt to use neurofeedback to help reestablish certain frequencies, to help reteach the brain how to operate in its more efficient states once again, because they lost that after being diagnosed with COVID. So there are long-term effects that we are treating, or we're at least attempting to treat, because there's no research about this. It's so new. COVID is very new to our environment and our industries. And then also you have the mental health component of the depression, the anxiety, the agoraphobia. And so we use methods of psychotherapy, in conjunction with neurofeedback when needed, so we can assist everyone restore to what their normative or preferred states are.
Yeah, I've heard people have had severe memory loss because of COVID.
Absolutely.
Ryan, I know if I put neurofeedback into my laptop, CMS comes up at the top of the Google response. That is amazing. I mean, that's kind of what every business person's dream come true. So how does that happen?
Well, you hire a very good webmaster.
And
you can't do it yourself. It's like doing your own dental work. Don't do it, And so hire a very good webmaster. Then commit yourself to the search engine optimization, SEO, and then and also commit yourself to pay-per-click. And we normally pre-COVID we were getting 30 clients per day per month, and but that does cost a certain amount of money to pay every month. We find it very worthwhile.
Well, oops, it seems like we are going up against the clock now. It's at 12:30, and I've got to wrap this up very quickly. So I just want to thank our guest, and thank you guys. You're wonderful, Ryan and Prachi, and thank you so much for coming and sharing your success story with everyone. I also want to thank you for coming and dropping in and listening to us. Please come back next week. We will be at 216thenet.com. We're there every Monday from noon to 12:30. We're also on the Facebook. It's a page called Succeed in a Pandemic, and you can see this show on video, and it's parked there all the time. So not only this show, but all the others that we've done. And I hope you'll stop in and watch them. So with that, I want to wish all of you a good week. And please stay socially distant for just a little while longer. Get your shots if you can, because they're very, very worthwhile and very important. And I hope to see all of you again next week. Thank you. Goodbye.